spies fighting amongst us, with a backstory that weaves classic, uncanny tales and secret history together into a new American mythos. You can find the text and audio of many of his award-winning short stories on his website, TomDoyleAuthor.com. Everybody give a hand for Tom Doyle.
All right, you all got the beverage there? Or everyone get a chance to get refreshed? Because we're going Irish here, so it's probably a good idea to have a little beverage. And it's funny because, of course, I started the series very focused on American stuff, and then the second book it went all James Bondy and went from capital to capital with the magician soldiers and psychic spies. So by the third book I go, well, I haven't done the Irish yet. So fortunately, I have a prologue from the third book here, and it's standalone basically. I mean, maybe if you're really, really paying attention, you'll pick up a spoiler, but you know, no biggie. And so afterwards, we have book 3 here. If you haven't gotten book 1 or 2 yet, if you get book 3, I will give you a copy of book 1 or book 2 as a freebie to go with it as motivation. So sort of a cross promo there. So apologies in advance. I'm going to try to do this with a bit of an Irish lilt. And there's also a bit of singing. So between those two, now the last time I did this was at the Galactic Reading in Philadelphia, in a place called the Irish Pub, and I survived. So I don't think there was not violence, there wasn't riot. It wasn't like Playboy of the Western World or something where there were riots afterwards. So it should be all right. But I will be sampling the water because this will be a bit of a strain. So I'll keep this right with me.
Oh, it's not, its lids are not on it.
Oh, no, oh.
There you go.
Okay, maybe
there you go.
Sorry. Oops. Sorry about that.
Well, you might lose all your water. That's like that.
That's the least worst thing I could have. So, again, from Warren Craft, prologue. Terrible beauties are born. Too long a sacrifice can make a stone of the heart. W.B. Yeats. All was quiet on New Year's Day before dawn. Near Galway, below a thatched cottage, like they kept for the tourists, the quiet old man called Oz came suddenly awake in his cave, as if the lack of noise had startled his sleep. He got up from his warm cavern bed and rubbed his gray stubble, crossed with the world. He hadn't had a foreboding since the peace in the north, except for the gentle one that came to all the old and told him he must pass on his gifts soon, lest they be lost. No use complaining. In the dark, Oz put on his worn white Aran sweater and one of the fancy fiber Macintoshes the young ones preferred. He slung his rifle over his shoulder and, every joint hurting, climbed up the ladder to his cottage home. He stepped outside. Beyond his yard's low wall of rounded stone, the ground was flat and exposed. There'd be no surprises today. He made a sign of the cross in the air and walked towards the town. They'd be coming from there, rested and ready. He walked stiffly, as if he'd ridden a horse for a few centuries, like his ancestor of honored memory. He wouldn't have to walk far. He whistled a traditional reel, then hummed something by the Pogues. A mist blew silently in from the west, chilling, but well above freezing. Good on you, Gulf Stream, but couldn't you do better? But no, it was warmer these days, and snow wasn't as general over Ireland. Thank you, climate change. Let the Yank weathermen try playing against that for a while. The foreboding that had woken him kept a week of his personal warning signs. A photographer with long hair and etched face, like David Warner in The Omen, boarding the ferry for Inishmore. A pale young woman in colorless clothes, like one of the hard ones he'd known in the provisionals, drinking steaming coffee out of doors in the gray weather. A dog growling at Oz's shadow. With the mundane peace, the signs he'd seen about the town could only mean one thing. They were again coming for him, coming for his gifts. Not that he cared to keep such things, but they wouldn't be coming for the right reasons. They were coming for the worst reasons in the world. The worst reason they'd want his gifts would be to open a way to hell. He knew that from another side. A phantom pain from his index finger's missing tip, which he'd lost hooking like an agent at a hellworld's portal. Same as the ache in his joints foretold rain, that finger pain told him another portal would be opening soon, if it hadn't already. Ahead, 3 faint shadows moved toward him from the glow of the town. Oz looked about him. This field, never plowed, was the place. The 3 would be Cuhullans, hounds of Ulster. Tough bastards, but some had anger management issues. He didn't need to discern the blonde hair of a deliberately bad dye job and the pair of eyes of different colors, one green, one gray, to know who their young leader was. "Fergus," he called, "what business has you out on this fine morning?" Fergus raised a hand, and his 2 companions, a man and a woman, halted. "We'll have them of Shin McCool, the flail and the sand and you, all the gifts." "Oh, lad," said Oz, "I can understand working from the left hand, but the Sassenach too?" "Albion is divided," said Fergus. "It's an opportunity." "Albion can go feck itself by itself," said Oz. "You brought 3 against 1? You're treating me like Roderick Morton." The hounds drew weapons and panned the countryside, looking for others. Damn his loquacious habits. Oz had gone too far, and the hounds must have heard the deception. He whistled, and his own young, or at least younger, ones sprang up from the craft camouflage positions, a matching man and woman for Fergus's, weapons at ready. Fergus gave a grim chuckle. "We have a fair fight." "We have a standoff," said Oz, waving his hand back towards Galway. "So stand off." "No," said Fergus. "We have a duel." Now that was a surprise. Oz considered. His commission was important, more important now than ever. But he was one of the elite to the bone, and he could not decline another craft poet's challenge, even to keep the gifts safe. Fair enough. A duel, then. Their companions drew back, lest some shrapnel syllables hit them. A modern Irish duel of craft poets did not require original composition. It was an improvisational pastiche, deadly riffs on the nation's verse and song, which already had all the magical words one could desire. Each duelist would find the words that had both power and hard truths to sing against their opponent. After a few rounds of verses, the damage to body and spirit would tell, and one of the poets would fall. Any outside interference during the duel would draw the wrath of all the free. With an indulgence ill befitting the seriousness of the conflict, Oz nodded to Fergus to begin. The challenger would go first. In a quavering voice, like the lead singer of the Undertones, Fergus sang, "You are stretched in your grave, you shall rot there forever, you shall smell of the dirt, you'll be worn by the weather." The red craft of each word bit into Oz like bullets, and he saw himself crawling back to his cave, and the earth folding in on him, finally giving him peace. Fergus leered at him. Stupid boy. Nobody won a major duel with one round of verse. Oz shook off the bits of death and launched his own words in return, matching the craft of his challenger in a fine Irish tenor, so unlike his old and gravelly speaking voice. This will not be a tenor. The night is long, and no day shall come. I promise that you're the dying one. Being what you are, you could never learn. Like another Troy, I shall make you burn. Woo. Fergus flinched away like a scalded cat from the fire in the words. But Fergus did not pause to collect himself, replying with an instant growl, as if hoping to catch Oz off guard with haste and simple malice. You left-handed maggot, you're weak and you're haggard. This solstice past shall be your last. Oz's nose began to bleed. The words had wounded because they were true. Like many others, Oz had pulled some left-handed tricks during the Troubles, and he felt sin on his soul that no confession could remove. This year was certainly his last on Earth, but perhaps because Oz accepted their truth, the words did not carry immediate death. Anyway, Oz could play on past sins as well as Fergus. Like all the tea in China, dog, the sins you cannot leave behind. They boil inside your mental fog. They tear into your greedy mind. Fergus's hands went to his head, clutching it as if it buzzed with bees instead of crimes. But he recovered himself. Still wide awake and sweet as honey, he said, spitting blood onto the grass like a boxer. For this round, he gave himself more time, no doubt to think more carefully about his words. In their awakened state, they both knew that any verse now could be their last. You change utterly. Your heart is turned to stone. Your center cannot hold. Slouch off to die alone. The bitter words burned like cold iron. They tore at Oz's heart and drove him to his hands and knees. Just one more word, the right syllable, would have quartered him along mystic dotted lines. Like sharks smelling blood in the water, the other hounds inched toward him. But Oz didn't leave the living stream. Painfully, he rose up on his stiff knees. My death is too soon for you to trouble me with it. Time to give Fergus the bad news about their relative power. Time to end this. But he would not take Fergus's life, not today. One thing he learned from his exchange, he'd killed enough. He didn't want more blood staining his karmic ledger now, and dead craftsmen aplenty would be coming soon. In the east, the sun was rising, with his best full-throated voice, Oz saying, "Who will drive for Fergus now, when all his light has gone to shade? Why lift his tender eyelids now, when his bright eyes forever fade?" The words flew from Oz like knives into Fergus's face. With audible pops, Fergus's eyes burst from his sockets. Fergus screamed like a snapper. His fingers went to his bleeding eye holes. "You bastard!" he howled. Fergus wouldn't understand this grace. His whole generation refused to understand such cold grace. Cut off from sight and the active service of the left hand, Fergus might yet become the greatest of the Fili and another Tulaco Carolyn of craft song, while Oz would be moldering in the grave. The other hounds stared at Oz, hands ready to bring weapons to bear. Oz dismissed them with a wave of his arm. "Take them away before I give you the same." With reluctant slowness, they led away their blind leader as he wept blood. One of Oz's guards, a dead mariner from Marine O'Hara at 50, except for the shorter hair and grimmer mouth, said, "They'll be back with more." "So they will. Give them something to remember us, Makush." But Oz wouldn't be here. He was packed and ready. He'd go to Shannon Airport and pass through the flow of returning dead from the diaspora and the ghost guards. And go on to where? He'd need more of one of the gifts, but he wouldn't fly to Italy directly. First he'd go on to somewhere they wouldn't immediately follow, somewhere he could feel for the coming portal. Into the west? Maybe. But he wouldn't think about it. He didn't want any farsight tracking his movements until it was too late. Had the time truly come to use all the gifts? Fergus and his friends seemed to think so, though their uses would be different from his. In the first light of dawn, Oz looked about at his country, and the dear sight of it brought him another foreboding and a few tears. After today, he'd never see his home again. So, how am I doing for time? How much time?
What?
How am I doing for time?
Oh, you got 20 minutes.
Did I take 20 minutes?
No, you got 13, so you can keep on reading.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just going to do the brief. That was towards the end. I'll just give you a brief intro to the real feel of how it opens. Very brief. And because it starts in this sort of whole different subgenre with this kind of military aspects at the front, and as it goes along, it becomes more James Bondy and secret agents and such. So, the veterans of, this is from the beginning of American Craftsman. Part 1, the veterans of 1,000 psychic wars. And he was bent on making us feel as he did, and of course his magic accomplished his desire. Mark Twain.
Your magic errand boys just made a bad guess again.
Allen Ginsberg. 1. As I hustled out from the hangar into the Persian Gulf twilight, my muscles tightened and power flowed into my hands. Soon I would do what I did best. Soon I would kill a sorcerer. The U.S. Army base tarmac gave off a blistering heat mirage as I scrambled across it. A helicopter's blades rotated at ready, their wash blasted hot as I boarded. The door slammed behind me and the copter, christened Valkyrie, took off. The 5 men of my team saluted, then went back to checking their equipment. They showed no impatience at having waited on the pad for orders. They were used to the bull crap. There's a kid here, so keep that word. I sat toward the front for a quick off-headphone interaction with the pilot when we hit the spooky stuff. For a silent aircraft, the Valkyrie made plenty of noise inside. Next to me, Corporal Vulture Volant yelled my nom de guerre. "Casper, is that like a friendly ghost, sir?" "Not that friendly, Corporal." "A killing ghost, sir?" But seeing that I was unamused, Vulture again inspected his sniper rifle, and I was grateful that I didn't have to order him to shut the heck up. It was my fault for choosing a crappy cryptonym, and not just because of the ghost reference. Casper gave a clue to my team. Casper, or Caspar, had been one of the 3 wise men, a magus, or what Americans with knowledge called a craftsman. Why hide my identity only to give it away to the back door? My father had written me a warning that we Mortons are too practical about the craft and too crafty about the practical. Yeah, my name was Morton, Captain Dale Morton. Other craftsmen tended to have strong opinions about my family. I didn't blame them. My men didn't know about my family or magic, but they aimed uncomfortable glances at me. I didn't blame them either. These 5 had trained together, a seamless whole, but not with me. That was too important a secret to expose to others for too much time. Our unit designation, MAC 66, appeared in no records. The Pentagon didn't formally acknowledge Delta Force and SEAL Team 6, but allowed their existence to be known. Craft ops were different. Knowledge of their existence could be fatal. 2 of my 5 were boot camps. Green is Uncle Sam's toilet paper. Vulture and Lieutenant Shaheen were more experienced. Shaheen knew Arabic and regional detail and doubled as team medic, so he was Doc. And then there was the old man, my NCO, Master Sergeant Z. Zanol. All good men, but I couldn't get too close. They were smart enough not to question the bullcrap, but they would know the word from this land to describe me, assassin. So that's how it begins. Of course, the mission goes horribly wrong, as it must. And we get into rivalry and a lot of backstory involving Puritan families that have been fighting each other magically since the earliest days, and actual historical ancestors with, like Anne Hutchinson has a lineal descendant of kind of matriarchs, and there's the descendants of the Endicotts and John Endicott of Salem, they're still as Puritan as ever, and Doyle is a descendant of the real Thomas Morton, who's been called America's first rascal, who was kind of this pagan amidst the Puritans back in the day. So, any questions? Questions?
Let's have another song.
James, well, we can talk about afterwards, like, can you spot the number of pastiches and references both from the songs and the text, which there are more than a few. It's kind of at the meta level. They were doing pastiches, the chapter was a pastiche, it's pastiche all the way down. So. Alan.
So in terms of future stuff that you might want to do, your trilogy is called American Craftsmen, so it's very much rooted in the mythology of America and people who came to America. Now that the trilogy is over, are you tempted to write standalone stories in other parts of the world with other mythologies, other characters?
Well, that does happen in the subsequent books. And, I start with the American one so focused because America's got a fragile mythos when you weigh it against anything else out there, versus, say, England, 1,000 years of England versus a couple hundred years of the European American settlement. And I wasn't going to get too far into a Native American mythos for reasons of how it would interact with the literary canon and such, although they do show up. So in book 2, we meet the British ones, we meet, he goes to Tokyo, so we have the Japanese craft service, which just call themselves the ninjas. I mean, they're the ninjas. They're the only ones who don't try to keep it secret, because they go, we don't care. We're ninjas, fine. And there are Russian ones, there's in book 3, there's India. So it's all out there, and I would keep doing it for as long as folks want. But, 3 years ago I got throat cancer, and, I got cured. But I realized the kind of blessing of being able to finish something. I mean, you can see Grant up there. He was dying as he, had to finish his autobiography. I'm like, it would be very nice to actually bring this to a conclusion. And then the universe is still there. So, it would be fun to do that, is the short answer.
But you don't actually plan to do any right now?
Not right now. I'm working on a twisted space opera, which Scott read the original text of the original short story that's based on, and I'm revamping that, and we'll see what comes of that. But it's a very different mode. Very different. Although I am including I'm revising it to update the politics too, because it was written during the Bush years. And so it's a very, there's some mockery that I have in there at that stuff, and I go, no, I have to up my game on that.
So how many of the locations that are in the series are places you've actually visited? Is that a requirement for your process?
It's not a requirement, but it is definitely a bias that I have visited most of the places are in there. The one place that I didn't get to that I really would have liked to get to was Kiev. And that shows up in book 2 because, and I almost had it in. My partner Beth was over for the Olympics, the Russian Olympics, and was going to stop in Kiev. But at the same time, the Ukrainians decided to have a little bit of rioting and political revolution, as you may recall, so that part of the trip didn't happen. However, that part did force a revision to my book, so there was that. It turned out to actually, the books were going to be near future in my view, but when that happened, I go, no, this clearly has all taken place right in time with that, so it all happens by 2014 or so. So it's funny how that worked out. And so I had these bits, for example, the ruler in the UK was His Majesty. I was taking a little, death poll sort of bet on the Queen. And I think that's don't count her out too early. And no, now it all got switched back to Her Majesty. Oh, yeah.
Did you do a lot of background research for some of the elements of history that you're bringing into your stories?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And particularly before the first one was sort of a rereading or reading of the kind of 19th century classics of the uncanny, and along with actual, on the ground American folklore, to try to distill it down to something that would be a real American mythos generated in the same way that when I was inspired by Frank Baum in the sense of when he told Oz, he said, I'm just going to disregard all the Brothers Grimm stuff and going to try to tell this sort of story for entertainment set in America. And so I go, okay, what elements would it have? So all the magic is stuff that shows up in the American lit of the uncanny or shows up in the folklore that various settlers brought with them. And then there's the history, which I had to go through like a magpie, which points are kind of points where you can imagine the uncanny changing history. And it turns out there are way too many of them, and so you become kind of a paranoid schizophrenic, because once you start looking, it's like, how did Washington's army survive? And IO9 actually did a post where they said Washington was clearly a wizard, because the number of times that he is down for the count and then some freak weather event comes in and saves him, like at Brooklyn Heights, is way beyond the statistical. So my craftsmen were helping Washington's army with these freak weather events. And you get other, like D-Day happens because a freak pause in this bad weather just sweeps right in for that day. If they don't do it then, the next time that they have the weather is the one that destroys their artificial dock and everything. So that wouldn't have worked. So D-Day gets really pushed off. So they're there too, and they're doing. They get Stonewall Jackson shot by his own men. Events like that. Anytime I can find a nice little image. But you have to be a magpie. You have to be, and it is a lot of kind of immersion and all that stuff. So I'm listening to American history tapes and reading it all. It's fun. Other questions? So once again, please, I have the earlier volumes of the series. I also have promo codes for the audio that I can send you for free of the first one. So that will get you far enough into the series where this third book becomes a reasonable investment. So thank you very much, and thank you all for